Well, hello everyone. Every moment is a choice. That sounds cheesy, but it's so true, and I believe that now more than ever. Every single day we make choices, and it's in those choice-based moments that we have the opportunity to survive and thrive. The attracting and selecting and securing of new members into your organization is only successful when little choices lead to perpetual habits that are results producing and relationship focused. Hey, my name is Dr. Colleen Melchiori, and I am a senior strategist here at Fired Up Productions. And today you are going to hear from a panel of brilliant undergraduate leaders who are making smart, momentary choices in the wake of COVID-19. I am joined with my colleague, our Vice President, Woody Woodcock. I am going to turn it over to Woody to introduce our wonderful students.
Yeah. All right, Colleen, thank you so much for introing, welcoming everyone to this edition of Fired Up Friday that we've entitled Asking for a Friend. Asking for a Friend. I'm sure people in the chat right now, you've all had that moment. We've all had that moment where you've had a question that you weren't sure if you should ask it, but you definitely needed to ask for a friend. We've got 6 amazing students from many different council backgrounds and chapters that we want you to hear from today about what their experience has been and what they're planning to do about it, all in the context of asking for a friend. And so with that, let me introduce some of our students, and as I do, I'll invite them to join us, and then Dr. Colleen and I are going to ask some great questions and engage them. And then we certainly hope that you'll engage with us and our student panel by asking questions in the question box that should be right above my head, somewhere up here. And as we go along, you're going to have some questions. So we want you to put those in there so we can ask our students, and we can make sure that this Fired Up Friday is getting you fired up for the rest of your weekend. All right, everybody, let's get into it. Let me introduce our student panel today. We've got a great student panel. We talked about some amazing students that we have joining us. We've got Miss Erin Love, who is a senior, former panel president from UC Davis. Glad to have Erin with us. We've got Miss Jordan Thompson. She's the president of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated from Miami University. We've got Miss Farron Power. She's the VP of Recruitment at the University of Tennessee Panhellenic Council. We've also got some gentlemen with us today. We've got Darius Adams. He's a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated at IUPUI. Go Jaguars. We've also got Mr. Dane Wiggins, chapter president of Alpha Tau Omega at Georgia College and State University. And finally, certainly, we've got Mr. Ian Larson, who's part of Omega Delta Phi. He's the executive VP of the Multicultural Greek Council at Auburn University. What's up? Let's show them some emoji love real quick. Let's make an emoji river. If you're in this, let's show some love for our students right now. Make some noise for them as loud as we can. Thank you. Awesome. I love this. I love this. This is so awesome. Hey, we're excited to jump into this. But before we do, I want to say one big thought at the very beginning. When I talk to people right now, so many people are thinking, gosh, how can we just get out of this moment? How can we get out of the moment that we're in? And I want to offer a different perspective today, that perhaps instead of asking, how can we get out of this moment, it's what should I get out of this moment? What should I get out of this moment? Our students are going to help us with that. For that, I'm going to go back to Dr. Colleen. Dr. Colleen, would you share and help open us up with some questions today?
I would love to. Thank you, Woody, and thank you, students. Here is our first question. Due to COVID-19, there may be multiple things we don't have control over, a ton of uncertainty. What do students want our industry to be preparing for right now? What do you want our industry, fraternity and sorority life, to be preparing for right now?
I think that's something that could be really beneficial is especially like with recruitment coming up in the fall. Nationals, what they are trying to get out of recruitment and what like the individual members of chapters are trying to get out of recruitment don't always align. And I think listening to each other and like communicating openly is more important than ever in the sense of like all of the other challenges that will be going on.
That's really interesting perspective. I love that. Yeah. What else?
I think there is a lot of uncertainty in the entire timeline of this pandemic. We have no definite end. Things could pop back up, especially as flu season arises, and there's just a lot of uncertainty surrounding when and if this will all end. And so I think we're at the point where something that we need to start thinking about is what could this look like long term and beyond the fall semester. And so that's just kind of something that I've been trying to think through and figure out.
You think that would be helpful for us as professionals to continue to have those conversations with you? Yeah.
Mhm.
Anybody else? Jerry, you look like you're about to say something, man. Come on.
Yeah, sure. I think from my perspective, I think it's important for everyone to be welcome to the fact that this may look different for every organization, every chapter indefinitely. And so I think just kind of accepting that up front and, this quote unquote norm that we're used to may not ever return. And so I think just being open to the fact that we may need to do things differently moving forward for a very long time.
Just kind of a follow-up question to that, Darius. I think you could probably answer this well. What are those barriers to keeping that going? You're a student. You're saying, "Hey, look, this may never go back to normal." What are some of the barriers that prevent you from kind of acting on that?
Sure. So I think fear, I think for me as a new member, I'm a Fall 19 initiate of Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. And oftentimes when I'm engaging with other members, so pro fights or other people who've been in the organization longer than me, they kind of have this sort of this is how we've always done it. And so when we bring these new ideas, me, I've been very engaged on campus. I'm used to Zoom. I'm used to kind of engaging online. But if we bring that to a pro fight who is like, wow, we've never done that. What are some of the security concerns around that? That's where I kind of get pushback. So it's learning how to communicate that to more seasoned members, although I'm a new member, but recognizing that I have a great perspective to still bring to the space to kind of move us forward.
I love that. It's great. What do you want to ask us, sir? Oh, go ahead. Yes, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. One thing I just wanted to add. One thing that I can see from a lot of students my age, younger than me, is that we have to, on the students' end, we have to be able to accept the fact that things are going to change. But something that I know me and the rest of my chapter are wanting more of is not necessarily no change, but we want to know what those changes are if they are going to come. And we want to know that when things are changing, we are going to be able to control how those or how the outcomes come about and being secure in the fact that things are going to change. So being able to work with those that are leading us in our different organizations for Greek life, just being able to work with us through those changes. So it's kind of on both ends.
I love that. Yeah, I hear you saying we want a voice at the table with that. We want to know and be secure in that we're able to communicate. I love that. That's so good. Yeah. Thank you.
So cool. I love that, Dane. Thanks for sharing that. Hey, Miss Jordan Thompson, is there? I want to ask this question to the panel, and I'll call on a few others. Miss Jordan, what are you doing right now in response to COVID-19 that you're really proud of? Just something you're doing really proud of, where you're caring for yourself, caring for some of your sisters. What are you really proud of that you've been doing in response to COVID-19 right now?
Yeah, so one thing that I'm extremely proud of that my chapter has been doing is we've been hosting virtual yoga classes. One of my line sisters, she's actually a certified yoga instructor. So we've been able to have Instagram live classes where people are able to tune in and then we'll post the live video to our Instagram so people are able to watch it later. And I think this has like been really effective because one of the things people miss most during this time is the ability to go to the gym, still work out. And I'm the type of person where I need someone to tell me what to do. I can't just like work out in my room without some type of guide or structure. So I'm definitely super proud of that. Everyone really loves it. It's been really effective. And I think that's just something that's really small, but has been able to make such a huge impact as like to make sure that people are still staying healthy and fit and active.
Yeah, I love that. Hey, Ian Larson, is there anything you're doing right now that you're really proud of in response to COVID-19?
Yeah, so probably the thing I'm most proud of is that we just pretty much completed start to finish activation of a few new members entirely virtually. Almost half of my fraternity just graduated. So my brothers have recognized the importance of continuing to recruit and activate new members and not sitting still while we can't be on campus. It's definitely challenging. One of our members is in China. So trying to hold virtual process meetings and all that kind of stuff with time zones is kind of crazy. So it wasn't the smoothest, but for something that we were just kind of, I mean, basically winging it. I think we're all pretty proud that we got them activated.
That is, I want everybody to hear that there are people who are innovating. You know how much sisterhood and brotherhood has meant to you. And so we're trying to give that to our other new member friends who are out there, making sure they come into our brotherhood, our sisterhood. And I love that you're not just sitting back waiting, let's see what happens. You're proactively moving towards people and you're bringing them into Omega Delta Phi for your organization. That's awesome. That's cool. Hey, Aaron Love, you doing anything that you're really proud of in response to COVID-19 right now?
I think something that like is really nice that's been happening in my chapter is that people are choosing to hold each other accountable for like their actions in response to the virus. And I know that's something we do on campus, but like in the sense of a global pandemic health emergency, like people are saying, like, it is important to stay in and like encouraging all of these things that are like necessity. And I think that that's really nice because it's easy to do the easy thing and it's easy to do the fun thing, but it's much harder sometimes to do the right thing. And especially being from California, a lot of our cities and the places we come from are like being impacted really strongly from this because we live in big cities. And so making sure that we're educated and we know what's happening and like encouraging each other to continue doing the right thing, I think has been really helpful.
Yeah, and in the timing of the moment, certainly your state's made a big decision for some of this, the California state universities, maybe not UC Davis, obviously, but the CSU schools where, gosh, online in the fall and no students coming back. And that's
Yeah.
going to be a major shift for all organizations to get their mind around how do we create digital sisterhood, brotherhood, no matter what organization we're a part of. How do we do that and bring people in? So I know we're going to dig back into some stuff that Ian was talking about earlier because I'm sure y'all were like, oh, I want to hear more about that. Guys, I want to hear more. How do they activate? We're going to talk about that coming up as well. I want to segue a little bit in fair, and I'll come to you first and maybe allow you to give some praise and some shout outs. Here's the question for our students. Have you seen any organization on your campus? It could be a part of your council that you belong to. It could be someone else that you've seen do something innovative or noteworthy to care for their sisters or brothers. Farron, anybody you would give a shout of praise to, or like, hey, Woody, I want to celebrate this other organization did something cool. I noticed them. They're not my organization, but I thought it was cool what they did.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of have two things that are in my mind. One is more coronavirus related, and one isn't. So I'm going to start with the one that isn't, and then work the way there. But not fully related. But earlier on in the year, we were kind of talking about our first round of recruitment and what that looks like. It's called Go Greek Round, and we were talking about recruiting for the Panhellenic community as a whole rather than just your own chapter, because the goal is to get women into Greek life and into the Panhellenic community to be further supported. And so Delta 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 on our campus has since informed me, and even since the coronavirus has happened, that they are going to be having a fully Go Greek round, if that makes sense. And so a lot of times chapters tend to recruit for themselves as well during that time, which is completely natural and normal. But their recruitment chair and their president have both told me that they are really, really working to train their women to not talk about their own chapter, but to talk about the Panhellenic community as a whole and really just trying to leave out their name in total. And so I just want to commend them for that because that was a really big deal to me. And I think it spoke volumes about their leadership. And then more on the COVID basis, the chapters have done an incredible job of creating a very swift adaptation in their mindset. We've moved from having to discuss things about decor and deadlines and things that now seem silly, and how rather kind of translate that into how do we support the mental health of our women and support them financially when people may have lost their jobs, and maybe kind of really figuring out what's going on. And their home lives might be different. Some people don't have a home life that they want to go back to when they are told that they have to leave their residence hall mid-year. And so we've just kind of had to shift our conversation and shift that mindset as a whole. But I just really think it's been a really cool thing to get to see our recruitment chairs make that mindset shift so quickly.
Yeah, fair. And I love I love those two examples. And it's like, yeah, we should care less about our decor and what our tablecloth was going to look like, and more about how's my sister doing, and can we promote all of Panhellenic instead of just my chapter? That's really cool. Fair, and way to go. That's awesome. Hey, Darius, I'm curious if you have a thought on something you've seen another organization doing that's a little innovative. Somebody you could give a shout out to, maybe either at IUPUI or just another org that you've noticed and you want to give some love to and some praise right now.
Absolutely. I think that kind of like Farron said, I'm proud of, every organization just being able to adapt. I'm on Instagram all the time, and I see that a lot of chapters and even organizations are just really utilizing that to just get the word out and keep people informed. But if I had to give one shout out, it would definitely be to the Zetas on my campus. Not only did they do a virtual week of events, but they also did shout outs and end of the year recognition awards for different organizations, not only in MPHC, but I believe they also did it within MGC as well. And I just thought that that was just something that was selfless that they didn't have to do. And again, to just show that we're kind of all in this together as a Greek life community, and not just the Zetas or not just the Alphas and not even just MPHC, but all of us within each council. So I thought that that was really impressive on their behalf.
Gosh, that's so good. That's so good. I want to be a Jaguar up at IUPUI now. Come on, I want to be in that community. Wow, that's awesome. That's so cool. Hey, Dr. Colleen, I know there's some other questions we want to jump into, and some of these students have really neat. They're innovating, and so I know that's going to come, and our attendees want to hear that too. But Dr. Colleen, I'm going to pass the torch to you a
Hey,
little bit.
so we've actually got a great question from the audience, and I'll ask this, go a little bit off script if that's okay. And it says, do you as students feel y'all are getting support from your national organization and or your local advisors and national headquarters? Are there areas that we need to work on? What do you think, Dane?
Yeah, I would say that I am definitely getting a lot of support. It's not so much of my national organization telling me I can do this or that, but it's more so of them telling me that whenever I find out from my school what it is that we're going to be able to do, whether it's during the summer or in early fall, that my national organization is going to be there to back us up. And if I need any sort of assistance in anything, if there are new things that we're facing that I know might be a little difficult for our chapter to handle. I've been told by our leadership consultants and different guys in our national fraternity that said that if there's any need of assistance, that they are willing to come down and help us and sit with us and teach us how to go about these different changes. And so I definitely feel a little nervous about the future, but I'm not nervous in the sense of that it could go wrong, but just nervous in the sense that it's just changed. So I definitely
What's
feel
going to happen? Yeah. Jordan, what about you?
I definitely think that in terms of my national organization, we're definitely very supported at this time. I get emails probably every 3 minutes with a new update. They're very transparent, even if they don't have a plan as to what's going to happen. I think it's been very transparent in terms of communication. Like, this is what we know so far. This is what we're trying to do. This is what we can do. Any ideas? In terms of my school, I definitely think we have a lot of support from our Greek office still. I think overall, just Miami in general has done a really good job of just reaching out to students, making sure that we're okay. Our president Crawford, the president of our school, he has contacted all the students like via phone call just to make sure that we're all doing okay. So I definitely think that we've been supported during this time.
Man, there's two things that you said in there that I loved, and that was transparency in leadership. And I think that that is so key. That even if we don't know exactly where we're going, we've got to. And I say this to students here that are student leaders and advisors. We've got to at least say, "Hey, look, we don't know what any of this looks like, but we promise we're going to do it together. And here are some of the options." I just love that, and I think that that transparency is so key. I think sometimes we're just conditioned to think, man, if I don't know the answer, I'm not going to say the answer. I don't want to make anybody panic. Well, spoiler alert, we're all kind of panicked right now anyway. You know what I mean? So we might as well have those conversations. I also love that the president of the university called every single student. And man, if that is not a huge way to retain and engage our student population and our members, leaders on the call, if you have not yet called every single chapter member, boy, that you should do that. That's really great. Hey, just kind of going along with that, I would love to hear some ideas about what you all have done to retain your members during this time. We heard a little bit about virtual yoga and stuff like that. Ian, what have you all done to keep the members that you have?
So I think our chapter is kind of unique. We're pretty split. So half of our members, we're pretty small. We only had I think about 11 or 12 members. We're new on campus. Half of them were seniors graduating right now, and then the other half are my line brothers. And we were basically all friends in the first place when we rushed. So we had that advantage of already knowing each other. So because of that, we've been able to still hang out, like, talk to each other all the time. So we've been able to stay engaged in that way and keep each other still interested in the fraternity. We still work on projects all the time, making sure that we're all showing up to chapter meetings and stuff. So stuff like that. So I think I had an advantage in that sense because I was already really close with all of my brothers.
What I love about what you said is though you gave them something to do. We're continuing to have chapter meetings. We're continuing to make assignments. We're continuing to move forward because when people idle, they disengage, right? But still making that a part of their forefront. I love that. Do you want to speak a little more? And I don't mean to put you on the spot here, Ian, but do you want to speak a little more into as to what made you decide to move forward with this digital recruitment? I mean, at what point did you say, "Listen, we just got to do this. Let's move"? Like, tell us about that experience.
It was pretty much just in the back of our heads, we were like, we need to grow. I mean, we're losing a bunch of people, so we also were thinking that stuff could change in the fall. Like, Auburn the other day said that we're planning on going back to campus, but that could all change, or we could get sent back home. So we need to be ready to recruit virtually, and we also had some men who were interested. So we thought, let's figure it out. And we had support from nationals in that sense, and that I've heard from some other organizations that their nationals weren't letting them recruit virtually, which is unfortunate. Um, but ours gave us the support to like do whatever you can to meet virtually and get to activation. And so we really just wanted to expand as much as possible. And just one other thing on that is that we also see it kind of as an opportunity because we, as a part of MGC, we're definitely behind or Panhellenic and IFC and MPHC when it comes to getting in front of new students. And so we see it as in the future, if we can recruit in person, now we know also how to recruit virtually, and we can hold virtual events. And it's just another way that we can get in front of students that maybe we didn't know how to before. So we can kind of combine the two in the future if we can get back on campus.
Yeah, I love that. As it turns out, it's all going to be fine. We can do this way, even though it's weird. Man, as it turns out, it's all going to be fine. Yeah, I've got just kind of one more bat, and then I'll pat it back to Woody. Aaron Love, man, you're a senior. You're a former leader. You're out there kind of as an outlier in our little group here. I don't know if you want to speak to how people have retained you. I don't know if you want to drop some of your very special Aaron Love wisdom on our attendees here today. But man, I just think if we have an opportunity to hear you talk and just share with us, what else should we be doing? What are people doing to retain you? How are you feeling as a senior out there? If you want to share with us, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah. So being a senior right now is obviously not ideal, but at the same time, nobody is in an ideal situation. So it's not any worse. Like the things that we're losing are not any more valuable to the things that other people are losing. I think our chapter, or at least my chapter, has done a really good job of asking what we want, because a lot of things I think that have been happening for seniors in terms of graduation and all these things, like people are trying their best to do what they think is the right situation, but sometimes like trying to like mediate them is almost worse than just canceling them because it's complicated and it's not like, and so I think it's really important to like ask your seniors how they want to go about things and how they want to do senior week and like what they want. And also just making sure that like even if you're not with them, that you're still reaching out to them and you're still doing things to like make them feel special. And I know a lot of our chapters at Davis have been doing these really cool highlights on Instagram, and like not just the very generic, like this is what they're doing, this is what they're going, but like other girls have posted like their favorite memories of this senior or something that like this senior would never say about themselves, but is something really cool that they've done, and like highlighting very like personal and like unique things as opposed to like generic like senior spotlights. um I think another thing that is really nice is I think that like as a senior, it's really easy to check out, especially as somebody that is not leading things and especially now when nobody's here. But the younger girls in my chapter have done like a really good job of reaching out. And I don't know if this is on behalf of our person planning our senior chair week groups or whatnot, but they've done a really good job of like reaching out and being like, we miss you, like we don't want you to leave, just like making us feel very included, even though we're not doing all the things we normally would be doing. Like we're not doing our leadership meetings and we're not like involved in the way that we used to be. So I think that's been really nice. I think another thing, like just like I've been doing a lot of reflecting over senior things, and I think that one of the biggest takeaways that I've like gotten out of this is like we are really lucky to be in chapters because at the end of the day, like as cheesy as it sounds, it's not 4 years, it's for life. And even though our college experience isn't ending on the note that we want it to, we are guaranteed to retain these friendships in an easier way than somebody who maybe doesn't have that like innate connection. So I think that it's nice to like to put the value on the fact that like we have these bonds and these things are not ending and like this time is ending, but we're not losing anything. It just is like changing.
Man,
Yeah.
so much good stuff in there. Woody, you want to respond to that? Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, I want to, gosh, being a senior right now, goodness, but you have some wisdom to probably bring. And it sounds like your sisters are taking good care of you. So that's the cool part about that. That means you probably recruited the right people from the start, which is important. On the topic of recruitment, though, I do want to go forward a little bit, and I want to come, Darius, I'm going to come to you first. I want to ask you this question, and then Farron and Jordan, I want you to think about what y'all would talk about as well next. But Darius, you and I had a conversation just a couple of days ago about some innovative moves that you made as a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, and when you talked to me about some of these innovative virtual events and information, I was like, wow, did you get some pushback? You referenced that a little earlier in the video. I wanted to come back to that. Darius, talk about that for us. What's the innovative like move that Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated at IUPI made recently to engage potential new members and go in that direction? Can you talk about that for us?
Sure, absolutely. So first and foremost, we put on our virtual week of events over Instagram. So it was the first time, and I apologize if there's like a silhouette over me. I'm not sure what's going on, but I'm just going to keep going. Um, so we had our virtual week of events, and it was the first time we really engaged on social media. And so we would go on Instagram Live, and we would have discussions. We utilized Zoom, and I think that many people were just impressed because they had never seen that level of engagement from our page. And then from there, usually at the end of every like week of events, we have an information session for members who or people who may be interested in joining our organization. So this was the first year that we did that virtually, and that's where the pushback came in. And I mean, it was kind of, I was understanding where it was coming from. What if something's shared? We don't know who's all in the background, this, and that. But I think the main thing that we wanted to communicate was that if we want our chapter to still live on beyond, all of this, we have to continue to focus on bringing new members in. And I think that the way that we did that and kind of normalized it helped a lot of people to understand where we were coming from. And so, yes, I got the pushback, but at the end of the day, they kind of were able to give me tips to kind of think about. And I think, as one of the other members said today, now we're thinking about how can we even do this in the future? If we aren't meeting in person, how can we now incorporate virtual informationals as part of our everyday or our normal week of events?
Oh man, that's so great. I knew when I heard that story earlier this week that I was like, I want you to share that because I guarantee you there's a young woman or a young man who's tuning in now or they're going to tune in the future and they needed that little push of encouragement to say, hey, we've got to think about the future. We've got to think about the women and men who have not understood what sisterhood and brotherhood are like, and we got to be reaching them because it's connection is powerful, belonging is powerful, and more than ever, people need that in their life, and nobody really does that better than fraternities and sororities on a college campus. So, and I'm so glad that you took the pushback and you innovated and you listened. You said I understood, but we normalized and we said, look, this is our situation right now. So I love that you shared that. And also, just one more point on that is that hey, we already knew how to recruit people physically. We knew how to get in front of them. We knew how to invite them to things. This is not taken away from us. It is on pause right now. This is just giving us another way, another dimension to build relationships. So when things get back to a new normal, we will now have options as to how we engage more people in different spectrums. So honestly, it goes back to what I said at the beginning. It's not how can I get out of this? What should I get out of this? What could we get out of this? A new way to engage people that ultimately adds more people into our relationship building and more people that can say yes and transform the way both men and women join all fraternities and sororities. So thanks for innovating. Hey, Farron and Jordan, I'd love to come to y'all next and things you're thinking about from what is it, the Panhellenic level, the chapter level, the NPHC council level. How are y'all thinking about innovating right now at both Tennessee and Miami? I'd love to hear from y'all a little bit.
Go ahead, Jordan.
Okay. I was just going to say for my chapter, when we found out that everything was going to be online for the remainder of the semester, we had an emergency chapter meeting, which started off a little chaotic, a little panic mode for like the first 5 minutes. And then it was kind of like, okay, this is what the situation is. And like, now what are we going to do about it? We can't spend too much time freaking out because it is what it is. And we had pretty much a planning period of, okay, what are we going to do for the rest of the semester and even going forward into the summer? Because I think as Greek leaders on campus, I walk around with my letters, people see me, people, see my letters, they see the organization that I represent, and that's really easily known. But having to program on social media is a lot more challenging because you have to do more to be seen and you have to do more to remain relevant and, to be more innovative. So we basically talked about everything that our national organization stands for and how we can hit those targets virtually. So we've been doing study session Sundays. We've been posting study tips on Sundays. We've been posting healthy recipes, like I mentioned before, virtual yoga events. We did a virtual fundraiser to support Lions Club International, which purchases eyeglasses for underprivileged children who need them. So really just we've been doing books of the month, just a bunch of different things of having that time to think like, what is important to us? How can we still remain true to our values? Because although we're not on campus, us being Greek leaders doesn't stop because we're not physically on campus. So I think it's really beneficial that we have platforms like social media so that we can still reach out to the community and still make changes, still stay relevant. But yeah, you just really have to get innovative. I recommend brainstorming meetings, which is basically like everyone pull paper, put 60 seconds on the clock, and everybody write down an idea, like as many as you can think of. And then once that 60 seconds is over, you start talking about, okay, what do you got? What do you got? And then you start saying, okay, how can we make it happen? So I think that's really helpful, especially right now. And we have platforms like Zoom. We have things like Google Hangout where you can still group FaceTime, like all these things where you can still interact with your chapter. So really the sky's the limit. Virtual programming is hard, but it's not anything that's too hard for us. Like we're the millennials. We love technology. We figure it out.
Yeah. Hey, I love what you said. So many truth bombs in that. Like we could all like throw some emojis at that right now in this chat, because I just feel like you just spoke so much wisdom to us. And also, just because we're not on campus, it doesn't stop our impact. Us impacting the people in our sisterhood, in our brotherhood, the people in our community. You talked about several things that are causes that are like you're supporting the Lions Club International, and that's just amazing that even though you're not physically together, you are working together to impact. And that's what fraternities and sororities were always created to do in some way. So, Jordan, shout out to you. That's awesome that y'all are doing that. So
Thank
cool.
you.
Cool. Hey, Farron, talk to us from your perspective, innovative things that University of Tennessee Panhellenic thinking about, and you've got innovative ideas yourself. Can you share some of those with us?
Yeah, I really agree with Jordan. We are the social media generation. And so I think prior to COVID-19, I thought we were utilizing our social media well, but in hindsight, we weren't. And so now we've really had to ramp that up and figure out how we're going to move forward. So we've started this marketing campaign on social media called You Belong Here. We're launching it this week, so it hasn't fully launched yet. But that kind of has entailed giveaways, and it goes along with the University of Tennessee's current campaign called the Mattering and Belonging campaign. And so that is just something that has really gone right along with the university, and I think is really going to help reach PNMs and women that we wouldn't have reached before on social media. Our university has taken everything online through August, and so with the summer orientations that we would normally have in person to give these information sessions, we've had to move those online on Zoom. And we've also been publishing some IGTV videos. I've asked every woman on our Panhellenic exec to kind of focus in on a different video on their position of what they do and how that pertains to Greek life as a whole. And so kind of talking about what are the benefits of being a Greek woman, what can I get from this academically, what can I get from this long term. And so I think we're really, really excited to launch those IGTV videos and to launch this whole campaign and really just talk to first year students on mattering and belonging and showing them that they have a place at the University of Tennessee, but we really also hope they have a place in the Panhellenic community as well. And it's really hard because I think these high school seniors have gotten a lot taken from them, as we all have, but they lost their high school graduation. And so as much as we want everything to go back to normal as soon as possible, I think, like you said, our normal is about to be a new normal, and we're just going to have to adapt and move on and make the best of it. And I think a lot of that is kind of about attitude and the way it's presented to the members.
Yeah. Wow. Farron, that was fire. That was awesome. Just talking about that. And I think, and you just made me think that there's always an innovative way to look at the situation and what we can do. Our memberships don't stop, but we know that they will stop without finding the right women or men to be a part of it. We're driven by that purpose right now. So it's just incredible. I bet everybody watching this chat is like, how these students are awesome. So I just think we're so thankful for y'all to be here today. I know that we want to make sure we didn't leave any innovation on the table that maybe y'all wanted to share. And then I think that Dr. Colleen, we've probably got some questions that are maybe coming into the chat. And if you're listening right now, if you're an attendee and you've got questions for our students that you want to ask, there's probably a little button above my head somewhere up here. You can tune in, ask some questions. We want to make sure we're talking about those and making this really practical for you. I want to make sure there's any innovations that we didn't leave on the table. So Dane or Ian, any last innovations before I pass the torch back to my colleague, Dr. Colleen, for to ask maybe a couple final questions.
Yeah, if you're talking about different things that we've done towards the end of the school year, one thing that I really saw, and it didn't occur to me until I'd seen it in my sister, who is because I'm a rising senior. My sister just graduated. Seeing how hard it is to graduate without a feeling of closure was something that was really relevant in our chapter. And so something that our chapter has always done every year that all the graduating seniors really like doing is in their last chapter of the year, of the school year, we have all the seniors stand up in front of the rest of the chapter and everybody says their favorite memories or things like that that they've always that their favorite time spent with those seniors. And they didn't have that, and that was typically something that was just provided a sense of closure for those seniors, and they didn't get it. So my chapter came up with the idea of putting together a personal PowerPoint slide, a presentation iMovie, if you will, for each graduating senior, where they just did a selfie video and sent. It was probably 3 to 6 people, brothers per senior, just sharing their favorite memory or something that they would miss, and we put it into an iMovie. And it hasn't been sent out yet, so I hope none of them are watching it because we're sending them out tomorrow as a surprise to them. So, and that was something that I thought was really, really innovative of our chapter, just to provide some sort of closure for the people that are graduating.
Yeah. Ian, any innovation that Omega Delta Phi you're thinking about at Auburn for your future going into the fall? You talked about some innovative things that you've done to activate members, but anything else you feel like would be relevant for a student who might be on this listening who would love to ask that question for a friend and they've not had that friend to ask it to, but here you are, they maybe could ask you.
Yeah, so I think that like we were talking about, Dane, the how to make our seniors have like a good goodbye. Basically, a bunch of our seniors were founding members of our chapter, so I'm sure it's especially hard on them. One thing we've been talking about is we were supposed to have a retreat with all of our members earlier in the spring, and that got canceled. So maybe we're thinking about ways of going to the lake or something later in the summer if it's possible, or doing some kind of goodbye for them that they weren't able to have. And then in chapter specifically, I think one thing that's been good to keep everyone engaged is, I kind of said this a little bit earlier, but giving everyone not like busy work or something to do, but keeping everyone focused on like a project or a goal, assigning people to come up with some ideas and plans for making flyers. We're really bad at social media, so we've kind of expanded our like social media team and stuff, and just kind of making sure that everyone's engaged by making by doing stuff, basically, is the simple way to put it.
Yeah. Ian, I love that. You're asking them to contribute. And I love something that Dr. Colleen often has taught me about retaining and engaging our members is, hey, let them know, hey, this is the way we see that you bring value, and here's a unique problem that we would love for you to help us solve this problem. And we see a great talent in you that you can help us do that. So for all of us, like we've got men and women, we can speak that into them and say, look, you are valuable to us, you belong here, and help us solve these problems and come up with some innovative ideas. I want to say one last thing. Farron, you reminded me when you were talking, we talked about, and Dane, you were talking about the closure that seniors may not be feeling, and y'all talked about on the college side, but the high school side. And I wonder what student organization, what sorority fraternity is going to help welcome their incoming freshmen, whether they're on campus or virtual, to, hey, from senior prom to freshman prom. All right. Hey, we know that you missed out. That was something that was taken away from you. We want to host it. We want to fund it. We want to make it hospitable. We want to let you get dressed up, even if it's virtual. We want to host you for your freshman prom that you never got to attend. Imagine the relationship building that could happen and the way those women and men would feel seen. We put this together for you. And we know that big events aren't the best way to always build relationships, but it's something that we could do perhaps to engage more of the right women and men to say, we see you, we want to talk to you, and we want to highlight some things that our communities are doing to make the student experience better. But we wanted to put this freshman prom on for you because we know you missed out last year. So just one idea potentially that people can run with there. Dr. Colleen, I want to pass the torch back to you if there's some
Yeah.
questions we have in the chat. Yeah.
Yeah, we do have a few in the chat. And listen, what's so interesting, just to kind of bring this all together from my perspective, all of you are talking about how relationships are the way in which we grow organizations and the way in which we keep our members, right? I mean, all of you are talking about these little nuanced ways that you have been connecting. All of you have said that word at one time or another. And man, this is not a time of crisis when it comes to recruitment and intake in our world, because really our job is just to build more relationships and and meet more people, right? And you all are good at that. You're already good at that. You're already innovating in those ways. Just such a cool group of students, man. Y'all are amazing. I want to tell you some of these questions right now. So let's see. Here's a good one. As an FSA, how can I best motivate the MCG community to be innovative around recruitment when they don't have national support like a larger organization would?
Honestly, I would say first just reach out to your campus advisors, because especially now more than ever, like your Greek life advisors know exactly what's happening on your campus, and they have like more insight probably to what's going on internally on campus than the university is providing everyone else. And I would also say maybe try reaching out to another chapter in your like larger Greek community, maybe not even necessarily in your same council, because we all have a lot of extra free time, and I'm sure that they would love to help you and like share their strategies, and like maybe even just share like, the websites they use to make flyers, or just things that they've found have like worked. Because like the more Greek life grows for everybody, the better it is on campus and the better it looks on campus. And I'm sure that other people would be more than willing to help if you reach out to them.
Ian, you want to speak to this too?
Yeah. The first thing that came into my mind was the advisor thing, like you mentioned. I think we haven't really had a ton of communication from our national chapter, a little bit, but our biggest support has come from our University Greek Life office, and our MGC advisors specifically. They've helped a ton about pushing us forward, and keeping us motivated, especially around recruitment. Because we're so small, they've had to help us out a lot and kind of guide us along. And that's probably that's like we're really fortunate for that. So I don't really know what we do without them in that sense. Because it's hard when you don't have like a huge community and stuff to help out. But I also like that we have like another chapter in MGC, a sorority, and we're the only two chapters in MGC, so we've had to lean on each other a lot because we're both small, like watching each other's back, helping both of us out with recruitment stuff. That's helped a lot too.
Yeah, really good. Yes, Marius, come on in.
Yeah, if I can add, I think for me, one of the benefits of being a very small organization and not having those sort of like additional supports is the opportunity to build relationships, like more meaningful and interpersonal relationships with people. So I think I've been intentional about communicating with the people who have expressed interest, and whether that be like a weekly check-in, how we're finals, how are these things going, and showing them that they can still communicate and talk to me and that I still care, even outside of, just like the fraternity in general, I think will naturally bring people in and kind of keep them looped in. So I think it just goes without saying to just keep up the communication with these people. They want to be a part of our organizations. But I think if we're being intentional or we're just serious about building relationships, it's okay to reach out. It's okay to send a text. It's okay to call. Even if you're part of that organization, that doesn't make you any less than or undermine anything. It shows that you care. And again, it's a way to just keep them looped in and wanting to come back.
Man, one of my colleagues said the other day to us on a call, maybe it was on a Fired Up Friday, but he said something like, that first week when you're a freshman at school and you think it's okay to talk to everybody in your classes in residence hall, and it's not awkward at all, and you make all these new friends, right? And then something happens and you join these organizations and you stop doing that, right? You're like, oh no, this is my only lane. right now is that for everybody, right? We're in that awkward first week of freshman year right now. So it's not awkward to do that outreach that you're talking about. And as it turns out, like, touch points lead to relationships, and that's what leads to membership. And so now is the absolutely, even if you were scared before, you just blame it on the coronavirus. Hey, it's a weird time. I want to talk to you. You know? Uh, let's take another question. Oh, this is a good one. Do the student panelists have any questions for each other? Dane, do you have any questions for your fellow panelists here?
Yeah, I definitely have one question. For those of you that are moving towards a more successful plan for summer recruitment, doing virtual recruitment, if you had any people in your chapter who were not for it and who were angry about doing it or didn't want to go about it or just kind of threw their hands up and said, I'd rather just not do recruitment and we can wait for the next semester. How did you go about encouraging those people and kind of showing them that this is how things are, and if we use it to our advantage, it can benefit us?
Great
Darius,
question.
it's a
Yeah.
great question. I feel like Darius is about to answer.
Yeah, sure. I didn't have anything specific for that, but I think just when we talk about accountability, but we know accountability looks different right now. But I think that that's something that we should still hold our members to, coupled with the support. So I think one thing that I did as I'm transitioning out of my undergraduate chapter, I encouraged my fellow chapter members to remember why they joined. Like right now, it just seems like, we're kind of going through it. Even during the semester, we could just kind of get really frustrated because we're like, there's just so much that comes along with this. So I just take it back to remember when you were interested, and this is really what you signed up for. And now that you're in it, how can you sort of still be fruitful and still get that fulfillment that you kind of sought out after kind of joining the organization? So I think just kind of putting things into perspective for people, offering support, but also still holding people accountable. I think that people appreciate that right now, especially during a time right now where there's not a lot at stake. We don't necessarily have to do some of the things that we used to have to do. And so people appreciate that structure. So I would encourage you all to still offer that with support.
Something that I learned too, like at a leadership conference a long time ago, is this phrase called like motivating the middle. And probably a lot of people have heard about it. But sometimes when you put more energy into the people that are more likely to change their mind or like more easily change their mind, then at like the end of the day, it will bring up those people that were so against it. Because when everyone else is on board, like if you focus on the people that are kind of, they're like, well, I don't really care if we do it, I don't care if we don't do it, like, and get them to be really on board, it just makes the general mood more positive and like a stronger movement towards what you're trying to do and accomplish.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, Farron, do you have any questions for the group here? Oh, Farron, we can't hear you. You want to hit your unmute button. So it happens every time. There's always one. I'm usually the one, but yeah.
Thank you. I think I would just say, as fellow leaders, like, what is the biggest takeaway you've gotten from the position that you're in and from the college experience that you've had in this position? And I guess just like as a leader, what piece of leadership advice do you have for the rest of us who are watching this?
Man, I don't mean to butt in, but Jordan, I'd love for you to talk about that. You've got a lot of leadership positions on your campus, and man, you're a pretty dynamic leader. So yeah.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to unmute my microphone.
Good. I'm so glad.
I would say my biggest takeaway from being a leader or just being president of the chapter, you have to have a vision. I think it's okay to not necessarily know exactly like what we're going to do in all situations, but I think it's really important to have some type of vision that you have for your chapter or whatever you're leading. A leader should have some type of where are we going. So I think that's like my biggest takeaway. And I kind of mentioned this before. Transparency is really important to me. So if it ever comes a time or something that I genuinely don't know, I don't know. I'll find out, but I don't know. And I think that's really important too because I think that's really important too because I think a lot of times people try to be a certain leader or try to be what they think a leader should be. And it's really important to understand your leadership styles because a leader is not necessarily always super vocal, or a leader is always not necessarily super dynamic necessarily. So you really have to figure out, how can I be a most effective leader to the people that you're leading? Because not only is it necessarily important for you to understand your leadership styles, and even more important to understand how the people that you're leading, how they receive information. Because that was really important when I became president, because the way I talk to one of my sisters, I have to reword it to someone else. And that is really important as a leader because you have to know, how can we most effectively get what I'm trying to say done and have it happen. So all that to say, as a leader, understand your leadership and then understand how to lead other people.
I love that. Man, that's excellent. And just thinking about what other people need. Hey, listen, we have got to wrap it up here. I want you to know that you are not alone at Fired Up Productions. We love you. That's my actual real cell phone number behind me here, 615-260-5055. I'm going to turn it over to Woody, who's got some special surprises to wrap us up here.
Yeah, I wanted to let everybody know who is on our student panel today that we talked about it. We wanted to give y'all a special gift. Being a part of the student panel, contributing your knowledge, we're all going to give y'all free access to our digital classroom for your unique council that you're a part of. And so I'm excited after this to get y'all connected. And you may be wondering, what is that? That's a classroom that our team just gathered together, our thoughts related to IFC specific chapters, paneling specific chapters, culturally based fraternities and sororities, and we want our student panel today. We wanted y'all to have access to that and give that to you as our gift to you, because y'all have been a gift to us sharing that. Hey, if you're tuning in and you're watching this and you're like, what is that? This is just a space that our team has created to share with you. You can find out more about it on our site, phiredup.com/digital classroom. It's there if you want it. It's a great resource. We've gotten great feedback from students who have loved diving in, getting to be that certified recruiter. And we're just trying to help where we can right now to transform the way people join fraternities and sororities. And so we're thankful that this Fired Up Friday has taken place. We had some great asking for a friend moments. And we'll be back in the upcoming week with some more student challenges in the coming for the next Fired Up Friday. And so I want to make sure we share that with y'all. And here it is, the upcoming Fired Up Friday. You can see in the next two, we've got a 48-hour growth challenge, how 4 students worked to grow their chapter in the last 2 days. You don't want to miss out on that. And then we've got one for housing corporations who are trying to figure out what they're going to do to keep everything going and operate in safe ways. So we're excited for you to keep tuning in. We're so grateful for our students. I just want to give it up one more time for everyone who's on the student panel. Just want to give it up for them. I mean, just dropping some truth bombs today. Aaron Love and Jordan Thompson, Farron, Darius, Ian, and Dane. Y'all are amazing. And of course, always, Dr. Colleen, thank you. And until we see each other again, I hope everybody stays fired up.